next film, Monkey Business, starred Cary Grant and Ginger Rogers.
Well, all set.
Is your motor running?
Is yours? Takes a while to warm up.
Does me too.
Different story with Marilyn Monroe. She was being courted at the time by Joe Dimaggio, who was around, and when he wasn't there, Marilyn would get on the phone to him, and she would continue her conversations while the take was going on, and the assistant coming to her, "Honey, get off the phone, we're shooting." And she'd just look at the assistant with those big eyes and go right on talking.
Hi, Dr. Fulton.
Hi.
What'd you say to her? Mrs. Fulton, he said hi. I heard what he said, you peroxide kissing bug.
Edwina, she didn't do anything.
I'll pull that blonde hair out by its black roots.
Edwina, please. Edwina, stop it.
Come on.
By now, Marilyn's career was gaining momentum on its own merits. She got yet another small but important role in a film called We're Not Married, again starring Ginger Rogers.
The winner, Miss Mississippi.
You know her? Yes, my fiancée. There's your mommy. There's your mommy.
And while it was true that Marilyn as yet wasn't star material, the studios saw the handwriting on the wall.
We're just two little girls from Little Rock.
So they teamed her up with the magnificent Jane Russell and put them both in a major film called Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. Overnight, Marilyn became a superstar.
Yes, it was a great book. Greater as a Broadway stage hit, and even more gorgeous, glittering, and hilarious on the screen. With Marilyn Monroe as Lorelei Lee, the world's most fabulous gold-digging blonde.
I just love finding new places to wear diamonds.
Men grow cold as girls grow old, and we all lose our charms in the end. But square cut or pear shape, these rocks don't lose their shape. Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Naturally, Marilyn and Jane were obliged to immortalize themselves in cement at Grauman's Chinese Theater on Hollywood Boulevard. Soon after, 20th Century Fox put her in another glitzy piece titled How to Marry a Millionaire. Not surprisingly, it was another box office bonanza. The film also co-stars Betty Grable and Lauren Bacall. In the film, Marilyn is blind as a bat, unless she wears her glasses, which is seldom. She followed up with the darkly sensuous murder film titled Niagara, which also starred Joseph Cotton.
Take me in your arms.
She sang of love just as she lived for love, like a Lorelei, flaunting her charms as she lured men on and on to their eternal destruction.
Smell like a dime store. I know what that means.
Sure, I'm meeting somebody. Just anybody handy, as long as he's a man.
But she could never be his, nor any man's, completely. And that thought whipped him into a frenzy that makes the screen thunder with unparalleled suspense.
Hello, please?
With the end of World War II, Joe Dimaggio resumed his baseball career.
Pandemonium at New York's Yankee Stadium. The great Joe Dimaggio comes back to the Yankee lineup. Out of action with the nailing heel since the start of the season, Joe has been, up to now, the game's highest-paid non-playing ball player. And all the fans and his team ever glad to see him back.
One interesting side note about that second season, during Dimaggio's baseball career, he never, ever showed his emotions on or off the field. Except one time, and one time only. The Yankees were playing their arch rivals, the Brooklyn Dodgers, in the 1947 World Series.
So the Dodgers are ahead 8-5. Joe Dimaggio up, holding at club down at the end. And the crowd well knows that one swing of this bat, this fellow's capable of making it a brand new game again. Joe leans in. Here's the pitch. Swung on, belted. It's a long one. Deep in the left center. Back for Gianfrido. Back. He makes a one-handed catch against the bullpen.
Joe hit a long drive that seemed like it would go to the moon. But a Dodger player made a spectacular bare-handed catch right at the fence and deprived Dimaggio of a home run. When Joe saw that the ball was caught, he kicked up the dirt in frustration. For most people, it would have meant nothing. But to see Dimaggio doing it was a very big deal.
You know, I've had injuries that have been too frequent, and they certainly have been no fun. And as long as the game is not fun any longer with me, I've played my last game of ball.
Dimaggio continued to play baseball for another 4 years until his retirement in 1951. Of course, the major event in Joe's life didn't happen until 2 years after he retired from baseball. A friend set him up with Marilyn on a blind date in New York. On that first date, Marilyn couldn't help but be impressed. But even more, she just plain liked the guy. When their romance began, no doubt he was confident he could endure the constant glare of her media spotlight. After all, Dimaggio had spent 13 years in the glare of baseball spotlights. After a brief courtship, Joe Dimaggio, the king of baseball, married Marilyn Monroe, the queen of Hollywood.
Honeymoon couple arrives at Tokyo airport, a throng of 4,000 baseball and movie fans surge out of control, break through police lines. Joe Dimaggio and his bride smile bravely at their greeters, but they don't dare move. So back into the plane they go, while police clear a path to the cargo hatch with Dimaggio's convertible. The stratagem works. The former Yankee slugger and his picture bride escape into the car and head for the safety of their hotel. But their troubles aren't over. Next day comes a press conference where the public was barred, but the photographers and reporters more than made up for that. Their questions were rough, ranging from the risque to the ridiculous. And Joe, he's the forgotten man, which is something in Japan where baseball is so popular. I mean, never underestimate the power of you-know-who. But enough's enough. His patience is exhausted, and Joe says, go.
The crowds followed her everywhere, and for the first time ever, she realized her fame was worldwide. She was a phenomenon beyond anything the entertainment industry had ever seen. But to Dimaggio's dismay, when the U.S. Army asked her to perform for 17,000 troops fighting in the nearby Korean War, she accepted.
How have you and Mrs. Dimaggio enjoyed your trip to Japan?
Well, everything has been fine. We've enjoyed our trip. The only thing that I have to complain about is I haven't seen very much of Marilyn. She is making a trip to Korea, touring through the camps, and so maybe after that way we'll be able to spend a little time together.
Joe stayed in Japan rather than watch thousands of soldiers feasting their eyes on his new bride.
I'd say the highlight of my life was singing for the soldiers there. I stood out on an open stage and it was cold and snowing, but I swear I didn't feel a thing except good.
After leaving Japan, Joe went on location